Hello, everyone. Okay, so this session is for you guys. It's a Q&A session with Lyndon Joseph. And as mentioned before, Lyndon Joseph is currently the CEO of Cubotics Labs. And he has also authored a lot of Ross books. And if you want, you can actually go through all of those books and you can get some idea into Ross. So without further ado, I think we can call Lyndon Joseph. Sir.
Yes. Thanks for inviting me, Jeff. Yes. So, guys, we are planning a Q&A session, mainly in rows. I think you guys are attending a robotics competition, right? That is using rows. So, Jeff and team actually approached me, like to give a Q&A session to clarify your doubts. Okay. So that is the main intention. So I was just going through the problem statement uh, of the contest. So I think maybe you have some idea in rows, some of you, and some of you don't have any idea as well. So you guys can ask questions. So if I know that, then I can support immediately. Otherwise, maybe I can send to Jeff or something, so he will share. Okay, so that is a plan. And Jeff, is there any way to share my screen as well? um currently
Govind.
the screen sharing is disabled, so maybe you can just enable that for me.
Okay,
Yes,
Govind.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, just a moment, guys. So prepare with your questions, if you have any, then we will discuss that. Okay, let me share my
Yes, sir.
screen. Okay, just a second, guys. Hope you can see my screen. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, just a second. Yeah. So this is actually a slide which I'm using to teach the basics of rows. Okay. So so initially I can give a brief idea about myself, like what are the things that I'm doing. Um, just a second. Okay. So mainly, I'm running a company called Cubotics Labs. It's actually, I mean, a small company, is a startup, and we are mainly working on the robotic software development. Okay, mainly services. We have some clients abroad, so we are doing product development for them. That is the main business. And one of my passion is teaching. So I'm also doing, I mean, I'm taking classes, educating people about robotics and ROS framework. Okay. And I also used to write books in ROS. So so far, I think, yeah, 9 books I have written specifically in ROS. Then I have also an education platform. It's not a platform. It seems like, oh, just I think people are joining. Okay. Anyway, it's a blog sort of thing, mainly for mentioning some of the tutorials and courses that I'm taking. And regarding my experience, I started working in ROS from I think 2010. I started hearing about this framework and started working. Then from 2010, I was learning ROS, and I was creating tutorials, creating YouTube videos. And from 2014, I started writing books in ROS. So so far from 2014 to 2021, 9 books I have written. And and also regarding my educational background, mainly I have a bachelor in BTech from electronics and communication, then masters in robotics and automation. Both the degrees are from India. It's India only. Then I have worked in CMU Robotics Institute for a while for a research project. And from 2014, I am working, started my own company and working with ROS, robotics, this kind of stuff. Okay. So yeah, so these are the things that I'm doing, and I just want to show you my book. This is my latest book called Mastering ROS for Robotics Programming, third edition, and it is available in Amazon. It's in pre-order stage, and these are the 9 books that I have written. So Robot Operating System for Absolute Beginners, Mastering ROS, 3 editions, Learning Robotics Using Python, which is actually teaching you to how to make a autonomous robot from scratch. Then ROS Robotics Project is actually discussing different robotics project using ROS. Okay, and also I have reviewed some books as well, mostly related to robotics, embedded system, computer vision, those kind of stuff. Okay, so these are the things, guys. So according to your questions, I can discuss, and maybe I can share the screen as well. So maybe I can just show you some web resources in order to discuss the concepts. Okay, so
Sir, I want to ask something.
yeah,
Sir,
sure,
as we
go
are
on.
the beginners, so which book should we prefer to getting started with ROS? And
Yeah,
what are the things we should prefer?
yeah. So I will say a robot operating system for absolute beginners. It's actually written in that intention. Like the thing is that I actually started writing this book, Learning Robotics Using Python, but that book assumes you have some knowledge in ROS. But again, I was discussing some basics of ROS, but still it's assuming that you have some knowledge. Then I have written Mastering ROS. Okay, then I have written the ROS Robotics Project. I think after that only I have written Robot Operating System for Absolute Beginners, because I understand that a lot of students, a lot of people are like trying to learn ROS, and and this book is like discussing from the scratch. So it's not assuming that you know ROS. I'm assuming that you don't know anything, and I'm just teaching from the prerequisites as well. I mean, the Ubuntu, you need to know something like Ubuntu, Ubuntu Linux commands, then C++, Python. So I am also covering that. So I think this book will be a suit for getting started. Yeah, and I am working on the second edition of this book, but it will take, I think, 2 or 3 months. Me and my wife are working on it. This book is based on, I think, ROS Kinetic. You can work on it, but the latest is ROS Noetic. I mean, the concepts are same. Concepts are same. I think you can easily migrate. Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. I think I'm getting the admit request. So if you can manage, that will be great, Jeff. So I'm just getting the admit request from participant, it seems. Yeah.
Yes, sir, I am managing it.
Okay. Okay.
Actually,
Great.
I have made you a co-host for the
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So now we can start the Q&A session. Okay. I know some of you don't have any idea about ROS. Some of you have. You can ask. I mean, even if it is a basic question, or if it is an advanced question, if I know that, I can answer it. Otherwise, I will refer and support you. Okay. Okay. So let's start.
Hello,
Sir,
sir.
uh,
Yeah,
Hello,
we can
sir. Am
go
I
one by
audible?
one. Yes. Yes, you are.
So, actually, I wanted to ask that while we code in ROS, that is, I'm currently familiar with C++ and I don't know Python. But while we do code in ROS in C++, I noted that we have to write every time
I
whenever
think
we.
uh, uh, who is actually speaking? May I know the name, because your voice is actually breaking? I think. Yeah.
Hello,
Yeah. Go on. Go on.
my name is Anirban Das, sir. Am I audible
Okay.
now?
Yeah. You are audible. Yeah, Anuran. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, yes, sir. So I was trying to ask that while we code in C++ in ROS,
Okay.
we have to write every time we have to mention ROS double double colons.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any way to avoid that? I mean, is there any standard namespace in existing in C++ so that we can avoid that every time?
I mean, including the ROS.h and the namespace, or okay, okay, okay. That is actually a basic C++ thing. Like, in order to access the rows API or rows function, we have to use the rows namespace. So if you work with the C++ standard C++ library, you may be using the std double colon, right? So like
Yes.
that, yeah, like that, if you're working with ROS C++, you have to use the namespace called a rows double colon. So in order to avoid that, I mean, you can simply use, I'm not sure you familiar with the using namespace std. Are you familiar? So,
Yes, sir. So we use that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So is this working? Did you try this using namespace rows?
No, sir. I actually had no idea. That's why I asked this.
Okay,
Okay,
okay.
I will
So
try
I
it.
think, yeah, you can use this, but I will prefer, like, if you are using, if you are writing a big program, if you are using maybe rows, then standard libraries, then OpenCV and everything, then it will be better to mention rows double colon or CV double colon or STD double colon, because it will help to reduce the a thing called namespace pollution. Like if you are using namespace std, then using namespace rows, so there will be I mean, you will get confused which namespace is using by which function. Okay, so it will be better to avoid this if you are like writing a big program. But if you are writing a small program, or I mean using mainly using rows, then that doesn't matter. Okay, so the adding namespace will I mean avoid the um, ambiguity. Like when you go through the code, you can exactly say that this function is from this namespace. So you can try both. Okay, you can try both. Initially you can try the using namespace, then yeah, you can go like that. Okay,
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
okay, okay.
Sir, can you hear me, sir?
Yes, yes. Badri, right?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, Badri, go on.
So, let us assume I want to use a custom robot for autonomous navigation.
Can you be bit louder, Badri?
A custom robot for autonomous navigation
Okay, okay, okay. Got it, got
using
it.
SLAM algorithm.
Yeah, yeah.
So how should I go about creating this custom robot, sir, from scratch? Steps to be followed.
Yeah, it's actually a good question, maybe for everyone. Maybe I think I have just created a slide yesterday. Let me check that is there. Maybe that will give some idea. Yesterday I'm actually taking a 3-day workshop now. Today also the workshop is there. So I just mentioned about this robot development cycle, and I will say this is an abstract blocks. Okay, but if you want to create a custom robot or any robot, I will say you have to follow these procedures. Okay, mainly, like, if it is a custom robot, you should have some requirement, right? How much payload it should take, what is the speed of the robot, what is the what is the application. I mean, we will have a set of requirement, right? Then after that, we have to design all the parameters of the robot, like the motor torque. Based on the requirement, we have to design, we have to sketch the robot model in the paper. Okay, then after designing everything, we will move to the simulation. Okay, so I think in the competition also, I think you are working on the simulation, right? The main purpose of the simulation is validating your design. Okay, so you have created a design that is on the paper, you are making it real. Okay, but the thing is, like, you are not directly creating the robot, but instead of that, we are simulating. So for simulation and also for visualizing, we will do the 3D modeling of the robot before doing the simulation. So 3D modeling helps to visualize the robot, then we can do basic simulation in the 3D CAD model as well. So we will get an idea how the robot looks like and what are the problems from the simulation software itself. Then we will do the simulation. So we will get to know our design is not correct or what are the modifications that we have to make. Then we will iterate the design. Then after building the simulation, we will write the software as well, like the navigation, those kind of stuff. We will start writing. Then after writing the software, you can, after validating your design in simulation, you can go with the prototyping, then assembling, then testing and deployment. So after the assembling and testing, you have to make some changes in the software that we have developed for the simulation. So if you develop the software for the simulation, you can reuse a lot of things for the hardware as well. Okay, so this is actually the workflow of designing a robot. Okay, if you, for example, if you are designing an autonomous mobile robot, I think it will be better to follow some existing projects. Okay, so I am actually referring some projects like Lino board. There are many robotics, autonomous robotics project. So one of the project is Lino robots, very famous. Maybe I can share. Maybe you can just Google. Okay, so this is one robot project, differential drive robot, autonomous robot project. So you will get the circuits. Let me check whether I can just message. Just a second, guys. Let me check the messaging. I'm not able to see. Okay, maybe you can just search. I'm not able to see this message panel. Yeah.
So chat is turned off, I
Okay,
believe.
okay, got it. Yeah, so you can just search, guys, Lino robot. That is one project that you can refer. That is covering the mainly, like if you are prototyping the robot hardware, then this project will help. Okay, and one of the other project is Remo robot. That is a recent project. I'm actually running a course called ROS Developer Learning Path. So this project actually created by one of the participants, and this project actually mentioned in my latest book as well. So this is also a differential drive robot, autonomous. Okay, so maybe I can show you the robot video and all. Let me check. So what I'm trying to say is that you can refer this, okay, refer this project, and then you can catch it up, I believe, okay, because all the tutorials and everything is there. Okay, and if this is not enough, then you can just refer some books. Maybe I have mentioned these things in my books as well. So there are two books, Learning Robotics Using Python 2nd edition, and then Mastering ROS for Robotics Programming. Okay, so these books will help. Okay, so yes, yeah, so this I think this will be the better approach, like refer some existing projects for doing the simulation as well as creating the real hardware. Okay, so that will helps to accelerate the development. Is that
Okay.
okay?
Yes,
Okay,
sir. Yes.
okay. So you can search for these things, Lino robot and ROS mobile robot diffbot, okay, by Franz Butcher.
I
Yeah.
see that they have simulated using Turtlebot.
Sorry, can you repeat?
So when you scroll down, I see that they have simulated using Turtlebot.
It's okay. This one.
Yeah. These.
Yeah, this is not Turtleboard. What actually he done was he is using the Turtleboard environment. He's using the Turtleboard environment. That's it. So
Oh,
you,
so okay. So
it's
they have
not
used
Turtlebot.
their simulated custom robot in that environment.
Yes, exactly. So in his YouTube channel, he just mentioned his latest prototype of this robot. So we can reuse the world of other robots as well. So it's not, I mean, it will look like Turtlebot, but it's not. This is the actual robot.
Yeah.
So you
Okay,
can
sir.
see the assembling. So it is having it is using Jetson Nano, then with the I mean almost all the sensors are there. They're using Teensy board, which is I mean you can program like Arduino, but the good thing is that it is working in high clock speed. If you use Teensy 4 and all, it is running on 600 megahertz. And for the Teensy 3.2, it's actually running on 72 megahertz. And that is actually suited for our application. If you want to interface the wheel encoders and all, I think this will be a better match. Then he's using Bosch IMU, then laser scanner, then yeah. So this is a project. And seems like he's also integrating with the latest sensor from OpenCV called ORC. So there is a provision to add that as well. Okay. So this is the project. Okay. You can just search for Remo robot, Rose mobile robot or something. I think you will get. Okay. Yeah. So
Yes, sir.
better.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, hi. So
Yeah.
like building on the previous thing that you were saying about OT and TINS, so like there's always this issue with everyone who's like building a bot from scratch. So like how do we choose a camera and a microcontroller for our need? Like we can't go for a high-end microcontroller for just basic needs, and still we can't go for Arduino that is like at 6 megahertz. So that's a problem. And next with like camera, like we can't go with again like 8 megapixel that Raspberry camera. That doesn't work at all, I mean in all scenarios. And also OGD of OpenCV is pretty not pretty, but yeah, it's expensive if we are exporting, I mean importing from US. So yeah, like is there any thumb of rule that if you are doing these things, then you can go for microcontrollers like this and cameras like this?
Yeah, so actually it's all depend on the our application. For example, you mentioned that like if we use 8MP camera from OpenCV, we can't use it. I mean, it may not be sufficient for. I mean, we don't need that kind of that much of resolution or something. But the thing is that you can use any camera like 5MP or 8MP, and you can reduce the resolution as well. There is an option. So it will depend on the application. For example, if you are doing like a line follower task using this robot, for example, or object detection, and if you need a good resolution, you can just switch to higher resolution, and instead of using OpenCV, you can switch to Jetson Nano. And all these OpenCV, I mean, all these Raspberry Pi cameras are supported in, I mean, most of the Raspberry Pi cameras are supported in Jetson Nano as well. So I will say, if you are just building an autonomous mobile robot, a normal prototype, I will say we have to go with a good microcontroller first. Good microcontroller in the sense, imagine, I mean, if you're building a autonomous mobile robot, we have to fix some wheel encoders on the robot in order to get the robot position feedback. So you can use, I mean, wheel encoders with different resolution. Okay. So if you are using low resolution wheel encoders, then I think you can use maybe the Arduino board itself, maybe that is working on 16 megahertz. And there are Arduino board working in maybe, I think 50 megahertz or more than that. But for low resolution encoders, I think the 16 megahertz board will be fine. The problem is that when the resolution increase, actually we are interfacing these encoders to the microcontroller board using hardware interrupts. Okay, I'm not sure you heard about the hardware interrupts. Hardware interrupts are like whenever a new value comes from the sensor, a hardware interrupt will generated and it will pause the microcontroller program and execute the interrupt routine. Okay, so imagine if the wheel encoder resolution is very high, so it will keep on interrupting the microcontroller. Okay, so if it is a normal Arduino and if you are using higher resolution encoders, then we may have to think about another microcontroller maybe working in 80 megahertz, 80 megahertz. Okay, so in one of my project, I have used Tivasi Launchpad. I'm not sure you have heard about it, but I can just show you that. Tivasi, it's actually an evaluation board. So I have used this board for one of my robot. Okay, it's actually cost around 500. Currently, I think it's $1,000. I mean, 1,000 rupees. Yeah, it's an evaluation board, but I will prefer Teensy board itself. Teensy, it's like Teensy 3.2. Let me check the price. Yeah, it's okay, it's 1,000. Okay, 1,700. But if it is too costly for you, then you can go for the Raspberry Pi Pico as well. That is, I think, costs around 400 rupees or something, 200. So this will be a good solution for this kind of application. Okay, so you can think about Raspberry Pi Pico, which is very cheap. Then you can think about Tivasi Launchpad. You can program this board using an Arduino kind of IDE called Energia. Okay, so this is very similar to Arduino. So you can use that. Otherwise, if you are too comfortable with Arduino, there are boards that is having 50 megahertz or something. So you can use that if you are using good higher resolution encoders. Okay, so that is one thing. And regarding the sensors, like you have to, interface some depth camera or some laser scanners like RP LiDAR. Sorry for the background noise. I'm actually working from home now. Yeah, so there are some LiDAR sensors. These sensors required for the creation of the map. Okay, so there are different, just a second. There are different models available from different companies. So if you are looking for some cheap alternatives, there are YD LiDAR. Okay, so its resolution will not be much high. I'm talking about the laser scanner. Okay, so this is helping us to map the environment. So there are different laser scanner, and you can use it based on your preference. I mean, if you need good resolution, then you can opt for RP LiDAR. Okay, and there is an option. So if you are directly using laser scanner, you can use like this. Otherwise, there is an option to use the depth camera, like in the RealSense. And you can use it, and you can convert the data from, convert the Intel RealSense data to laser scan data. Okay, but I will not prefer this because it will take a lot of computation. Okay, but if you're going with the LiDAR itself, that will be very smooth. Okay, you can work it in a Raspberry Pi or something. Okay, so simply you can maybe buy a Raspberry Pi, maybe 4 Raspberry Pi 4 with 2 gigs of RAM or 4 gigs of RAM. Then you can interface these LiDAR that is primarily for the mapping. Then you should have a microcontroller. Okay, So that is actually interfacing the wheels for rotation. Okay, so microcontroller is interfacing into a motor driver, which is driving the motors of the robot. Then we need a wheel encoders for getting the feedback of the wheels. Okay, so that is there. Then we need this laser scanner. Yeah, so these all are the main things we need in order to make a autonomous mobile robot. Yeah. So is that fine? Is this answer fine?
Yeah, sure. But I believe like Intel has stopped producing like real sense depth camera, like they're
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah. Actually, they stopped 3 models. Okay, that is actually the 3D tracking. They have some 3D products like lidars and these 3D tracking. So they actually discontinued these 2 or 3 models. But this model is still alive, and they will not stop immediately because this product is using by a lot of customers, and it is having good value. So there was some confusion in that announcement. Actually, everyone thought that Intel is stopping the production of all of its 3D camera, but it's not like that. If you can just search in the RealSense camera stop, you will get a lot of articles in one is from IEEE. Just a second. Okay. There are some official announcement from Intel itself. They are not. So this was the announcement that may be confusing to you, but this is the actual announcement. Intel will keep selling RealSense stereo cam. Okay, so that is the main camera that we are mentioning, but they are discontinuing Intel's LiDAR, face recognition tracking cameras will be discontinued, but stereo cameras are safe now. Okay, is that fine?
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so if you're a beginner in ROS, you can ask a doubt basic questions, no problem. Because
So is ROS currently adapted by the mainstream markets?
yeah, good question. So so the thing is that what will you get? I mean, what will you ultimately get if you learn ROS? That is actually a question, right? So according to my understanding, so if you see the market in US, I will say most of the robotic startups and companies are working in ROS. Okay, and main companies like Amazon, AWS, they are coming up with AWS RoboMaker. That is actually a product which is using ROS. Okay, and I will say most of the companies are using ROS. If you, from my personal understanding, the students who are pursuing masters in robotics or even electrical or computer science, they may be working on some robotics project, and there they are using ROS. So I will say learning ROS will not be a waste of time. Okay, I think it will be useful if you are like working with some robotics project. And in India as well, a lot of companies are working in robotics and ROS. So I can just show my course and my collaborators. So in that I am mentioning some companies. I just collaborated with some companies. This is my latest live course, and I can show some companies. So in India, you can see like High-Tech Robotics. They are extensively using ROS. Then BoatSync, this is one company in Bangalore. Then Technoendra from Pune. Then Orangewood Labs from, I think, North India. Movitos. These are some companies, startups, Asimo Robotics. So these are some companies using ROS. But when I have a talk with almost a lot of companies from India, they are using ROS. Okay, so I just only collaborated with this company, and this collaboration continues. And our main collaborators, NVIDIA, they are also using ROS, and their latest there is a latest news with NVIDIA as well. NVIDIA and Open Robotics. Open Robotics is the organization who is maintaining ROS. So you can see this news, NVIDIA tie-ups with Open Robotics to boost AI capabilities in ROS 2. So that means ROS is having a lot of scope and a lot of companies are looking for ROS developers. Okay. Otherwise, these companies will not tie up. There is no use, right? The main advantage that I'm seeing is with this ROS framework is that there is no big competitors for this framework as of now. Okay, because it started in 2008. Then it seems like yeah, it's what will I say? There is a big community around it, and there is not much competition, and the Open Robotics Foundation is maintaining properly. Okay, so that's why it become popular, and it's free and open source. So obviously, for a free and open source framework, will get a lot of attention if it is useful. Yeah, so I will say a lot of companies are adapting ROS for a product. ROS 2 will be a good fit, okay, because it's designed for a product actually, but ROS 1 mainly for research purpose, but still we can use it by fine tuning it. Okay. Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what is the level of migration from ROS to ROS 2? Sir?
Yeah. So if you are good in ROS 1, you can easily migrate to ROS 2. It's not a big deal because the concepts are the same. What I will say is that the main difference in ROS 1 and ROS 2 is in ROS 2, we got a new heart. that is the exact word. Like in the ROS framework, I will say the heart of this framework is a middleware. Middleware means middleware is the software which is in between hardware and the user. Okay, so the purpose of the middleware is to make the user experience easy. I mean, it can provide some functionalities so that the user does don't want. I mean, he don't need to communicate to the OS directly. Okay, so there is a communication middleware in the ROS framework. Communication middleware. So the main the main component of ROS is the communication middleware. It actually help us to write program. The ROS actually help us to write program that can able to communicate. Okay, so like if you are writing one program and if you're writing another program, these programs can communicate with each other by exchanging data. Okay, so there is a communication middleware that is helping ROS to do this. Okay, so in ROS 2, it got another communication middleware, which is like an industrial standard communication middleware. But for ROS 1, it's not like that. It's mostly, I will say, it's not suited for a product. But for ROS 2, they're using DDS as the middleware. I mean, DDS is actually a protocol or a set of standards. So these actually using for the inter-process communication. Even we can use the DDS framework to do the communication. So what ROS did was, ROS actually plugged a good DDS in the ROS 2. So we will get, I mean, currently in ROS 2, we can replace the DDS as well. If we want to work with a specific DDS, that is actually possible. So it's like transplanting our heart or just replacing our heart with a new heart. That is actually possible in ROS 2. So there are a lot of flexibility in ROS 2. But the problem is, I will not say it's stable. Maybe the core functionality may be stable, but still there are a lot of areas to improve. Okay, because if you can understand the development of ROS 1, it's actually started in a research company called Willow Garage. Okay, so it's actually started in 2008 by a company called Willow Garage, and from that, like after 10 years, there are still development happening in ROS 1, but most of the core functionalities in ROS 1 is stable. Okay, but ROS 2 development, I think, started in 2016 or something. Okay, and they actually created ROS 2 from scratch. Okay, they are not modifying ROS 1. They have created a new framework from the scratch in 2016. So you can just imagine how stable it is. Okay, there will be a lot of bugs. Okay, so we can't completely rely on ROS 2, but I mean, it's depend on the application. Okay, so if you are working on a small application like navigation, I think it's okay for navigation and manipulation, it's fine. But if you are like keep on adding a lot of stuff in ROS 2, I mean, to your application, I think there are still areas that is I mean that needs improvement in ROS 2. Okay, so like ROS 1, it's not very stable. Okay, so that's what. So if you stuck in somewhere, then we have to switch to ROS 1 again. So you should be cautious, like make sure that ROS 2 is fulfilling your need. Okay, then only switching to ROS 2 will be fine. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
So what does Boston Dynamics use instead of ROS, like for navigation?
Yeah, so they are using their custom software, and there is no mandatory, I mean, there is no rule that we have to use ROS for all the robots. Okay, there are companies who are using ROS for the prototype level. Then they may be migrating to their own code. Okay, so in companies like Boston Dynamics and the self-driving car companies, I actually discussed with some of the engineers from self-driving car companies in US. So they mentioned that they have similar PubSub architects, PubSub framework like ROS. Okay, I actually talked with a Uber research in Pittsburgh. So they mentioned that they are using another framework, I mean their own framework for doing this publishing and subscribing, or for inter-process communication. Okay, so they may be using the standard DDS. Okay, so yeah, so but after ROS 2, maybe some companies may be thinking about using ROS 2 also, because it is product ready. So I think a lot of companies are adapting to ROS 2 as of now. And for Boston Dynamics, I'm not thinking they are using ROS for their work, because most of the task they are doing is real time. Okay, so in order to make ROS real time, we have to do something. I mean, we have to fix the kernel, and so there are some works involved. So they may be using some publishing, subscribing framework. They may be developing, because they started the research. Oh, there are a lot of noise from outside. Sorry, guys. So they may be using their own PubSub architecture, because they started the development of robots, I think, before 15 years or something. Okay, I guess. So they have their own framework. Yeah. Yeah, for the
Good morning, sir.
navigation. Yeah, good morning.
Sir, I'm a newbie when it comes to ROS, so
Sure.
I've been trying to pick it up while trying to prepare for the problem statement given in this competition. So, sir, I had one query. So, basically, I was trying to learn about G mapping and the navigation stack. So, but I'm finding it really tough to follow the stuff that's given on the ROS wiki. So, I was wondering if you had any advice on how I should go about, learning it.
Yeah, so so the main advice is to refer some existing project. Okay, so like it will be better if you can go with the Turtlebot 3, that is a famous I mean differential drive robot, educational robot. So you can just check the repository, how they organize the code, and how the navigation stack work. You can just simply set it up first. You can set these packages. You can install these packages from the apt package manager as well. So you will get an initial idea how these things work. And this code of Turtlebot is also available. Okay. Okay, so that is one way of doing. And also I have shown you these Lino robot, and there are many projects available. That is simulation and navigation of differential drive robot using ROS. So you will get many projects. Okay, so just set it up and understand how that works. And following ROS Wiki, initially it will be difficult for sure. So I will say like you can follow some books or some videos in YouTube, okay, to get an idea. So if you are planning to like refer some books, there are many books available. And not only mine, there are a lot of books available that is discussing navigation. In my books, the Mastering ROS book is mainly discussing navigation. Then second and third edition, also learning robotics using Python, second edition. So these are the reference that I can give from my side. Then there are many projects that I mentioned, like the Diffbot. Okay, so in Diffbot, you can see the navigation. Then, I mean, this is a complete stack contain simulation as well as working of the actual hardware. Okay, so you will get an idea. There is an extensive documentation. Okay, so using this, I think you will get an idea how to get started. Okay, I think that will help. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So after simulation is ready, and I wanted to test that how robust the robot is without actually implementing it on hardware. So I wanted to directly affect the odometry noise, but there was no real direct way of directly accessing the covariance matrix. So, sir, can you tell me an efficient way of adding noise to the system?
Yeah, so you're talking about the simulation, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So so if you're working with the simulation and if you want control over the odometry and all, okay, it's not a big deal. Maybe I can show you that. Just a second. And may I know which plugin are you using for working with differential drive? Any plugin or controller you are using?
Sir, I think I was using.
Are you using maybe Gazebo plugin or like?
Yes,
okay.
I'm talking about Gazebo plugin only.
Is it differential ROS differential drive plugin?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Maybe I can first I can take the plugin so that everyone will get an idea. Yeah, so this is one differential drive plugin. Yeah. So he's actually mentioning, maybe I can clarify the question again. So when you do the simulation in Gazebo, in order to move the robot, I mean, if you are making a two-wheeled differential drive robot means left and right wheels, and using the velocity or using the speed adjustment of these two wheels, the robot will move forward, backward, left and right. Okay, so that is actually the differential drive robot. And if you want to move the robot in simulation, there are different ways to move the robot. Okay, so in simulation we will get access to the joints of the robot. Okay, so in a differential drive robot, the joints are, I mean, the wheel joints, two joints, right, left and right joints. So if you want to work with the a differential drive robot, the Gazebo simulator is actually giving some plugins. Okay, plugins are like a piece of code, okay, that can be used to control a robot. Okay, so this is an existing control plugin available in Gazebo. Okay, so how this work is that we can plug this plugin into our robot model, and when we start the simulation, this plugin will start. Okay, and it will start publishing and subscribing different robot parameters, like it will expecting the velocity command from the user, and it will be sending the odometry data, that is the robot feedback, position feedback. Okay, so so if you are creating a robot from scratch, I think using this plugin, you can simply move the robot and get the robot feedback in the simulation. Okay, but if you want to do some customization in this program, then you have to do it in the code level. Okay, so you can just search for ROS Gazebo plugin. Seems like this is the package. What I'm doing is I am actually taking the code of the differential drive plugin. Okay, so seems like there is a package called Gazebo plugin. Let me see, that is the, yeah. So you can able to see the plugins that is already available with Gazebo and ROS. Okay, so this package will be installing when you install ROS on your computer. Okay, it's already there. Okay, so you can able to see the code of Gazebo ROS differential drive. Okay, you can able to see the code, and if you just scroll down, you will get access to all the, I mean, information about the control part, then odometry, computation, all these things are here. Okay, so if you want to add the noise, you can see the set covariance here. So currently it's setting to some values, so you can change here. Okay, so after changing, what you have to do is imagine you are working in ROS Neutic. Okay, that is the latest version of ROS. So what you have to do is you have to clone this repository, Gazebo ROS packages, okay, separately on your Catkin workspace, that is a ROS workspace, and compile it separately. Okay, then only this package will this package is using for the simulation. Okay, so if you install ROS desktop full version, this the binary package of this package will be already installed, but we are not using it because we have to do some modification on this package, right? So in order to do the modification, you have to clone this repository into our Catkin workspace, do the modification, in this case adding the, I mean, setting the covariance. Okay, then compile the workspace, I mean, build the workspace, and use this package as the default package for the simulation. Okay, so that's how we are modifying the existing Gazebo simulation packages, I mean plugins. Okay, is that clear?
Yes, sir. So, sir, basically, I'll have to like override the path.
Yeah. So like what happening is that when you install the Gazebo ROS packages binary file, it will be, I mean, it will be already installed on your computer. In order to override the path, you have to create a ROS workspace. Okay, then you have to clone this repository, then build it. Okay, then you have to source it. Okay, you have to source it in the .bash rc. Okay, then only it will be override. You have to override or you have to what will I say, overlay the workspace of this, I mean, overlay the workspace contain this package.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Coming to the event perspective, some participants have a doubt regarding like how to use OpenCV, like detecting ROQ markers and the color of balls we have in the event problem statement.
Okay. Yeah, so if you have confusion in the OpenCV, maybe I can just give an idea. Just a second. So guys, if you are not familiar with OpenCV, maybe I can give a brief idea about it. Okay. OpenCV is a software library, okay, which is using mainly for the computer vision application. Okay. So it is actually, I mean, we are using this for robots as well. Okay. Because in robots, we will have cameras and we have to do some maybe object detection or face detection, something, right? So for the 2D image processing, we will be mainly using OpenCV. Okay. And we can program or we can create OpenCV application using C++, Python, Java, and there are a lot of support. Even in Android, we can create OpenCV applications. Okay. So this is a pure independent library that is for the computer vision. Okay. So if you want to write some robotics application using OpenCV, then there is a way to integrate ROS and OpenCV. Okay. So if you just search for ROS and OpenCV, you will get a package called Vision OpenCV. Okay. Mainly it's saying ROS and OpenCV is integrated. Okay, so when you install ROS desktop full, then the OpenCV is already installed on your computer. Then the integration of ROS and OpenCV is already installed. Okay, so what is the integration mentioned? I mean, what do you mean by integration? The integration is that, let me take this. Yeah. So I mentioned that OpenCV is a software library for doing computer vision, right? But what is ROS? ROS is mainly a message passing framework. I mean, you can write different programs, okay, or nodes using ROS, and these programs can able to communicate, like it can exchange data, it can send or receive data. That is a main thing that is ROS doing. Okay, in the basic level. So the integration of OpenCV and ROS means in ROS we can send any kind of data between two programs. Okay, maybe you can send string message, you can send integer, you can send images. Okay, you can send point cloud. Okay, so what happening is that the ROS integration of OpenCV means it's actually a program. Okay, this integration is actually a bridge. I will say it's a bridge. It's called the CV bridge. What happening is that the ROS image messages, okay, ROS image messages is getting converted into OpenCV equivalent data type. Okay, maybe for clarifying, OpenCV, when you work with OpenCV, the images are storing in a data type, or it's a class actually called mat. Okay, so this is the basic class that we are using in order to hold the image data, okay, in OpenCV. So what this bridge does is that it is converting the ROS image messages into CVMAT. Okay, so what is advantage here? So when you get the CVMAT from the ROS image, we can process this CVMAT using OpenCV. Okay, okay, and vice versa. If we want to send a processed images using ROS, then you can convert the CVMAT into a ROS image message. Okay, so simply or in short, I can say you can send images using ROS and you can process these images using OpenCV. Okay, okay, so basically let me start a VM and let me see whether I can able to demonstrate. So we can open the webcam driver in ROS. Okay, there is a webcam driver in ROS called USB cam. So what this package does is that it will open your webcam, okay, and it will keep on publishing the images from the webcam as a ROS message. Okay, ROS image message. Then using the CV bridge, okay, OpenCV integration, you can convert the images from the webcam that is currently in the ROS image messages to OpenCV so that we can process it. Okay, if you are using a Raspberry Pi with a cam, you have Raspberry Pi cam ROS package. So you can use this package in order to stream the Raspberry Pi camera images into a ROS message. Then you can using OpenCV, you can convert that image message into OpenCV CV band, then process it. Okay, so this is how we are doing image processing or computer vision application in ROS. Okay, if you want to detect ARCO marker, so there is a package as well. So in that, it actually need an image message. Okay, it's actually need the image messages. You can see the you can see the topics it is subscribing and topic is publishing. Okay, I'm just giving a reference. Okay, so it's actually expecting a compressed image. Okay, and from that compressed image, it can able to, this package ARCO detect can detect the markers. Okay, and it can publish the transformation from the markers to the camera. Okay, so using this package, if you are already aware of ROS, then I will say you can use the ARCO marker. If you are new to ROS, then again, if you can set up this package, I think that will work. Okay, and if you want to process your images, then you can use the CV bridge. There are some tutorials in the ROS Wiki, and there are tutorials in my books, and there are many tutorials available. Okay, so using this thing, you can integrate OpenCV into ROS. Then if you want to detect ARCO marker, there are some packages available. Just search for like ARCO marker ROS. You will get some packages, one from PAL Robotics as well. Yeah, this is another package. Okay, seems like it is compatible with Noitic, so you can just use it, and the instructions for setting ARCO marker is also there. So in order to work with these, I will say you should need some understanding of ROS. I'm not sure how much time you will get for learning basics, but it will be better if you can learn from someone who already know ROS. Okay, so you can just he can just clarify your doubts, basic doubts. Okay, yes, that's it. And yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah.
do you have any like approach towards object detection? Like in the problem statement, we have to detect a ball. So,
okay,
like, do you
yeah,
have an approach for that problem?
yeah. So I will suggest to do the object detection using OpenCV ROS integration. So the thing is that like if you just a second, let me take. Yeah, so if you can able to convert the ROS message, ROS image message into OpenCV, then using OpenCV you can do the object detection. Okay, so like if you just search for OpenCV object detection, you can you can use any techniques. Like you can use symbol thresholding, meaning color detection kind of thing. Maybe you can do in the simulated environment. Let me take the problem statement. Are they mentioning the color of the ball or something? Some balls present in the
It's
marked
actually
region.
reddish
Hello,
color.
sir.
Yeah.
The color of balls are unique.
Okay.
They can use that.
Okay. It's the same, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if that is the case, then you can simply use color detection. Okay, that is the simplest method, color detection, CV segmentation.
Yes, sir. But there is an area where there are a lot of balls. Some of
Okay.
them might overlap a little.
Okay. But the thing is that there are color segmentation as well as segmentation using contours. So these are some simple techniques that we can use to detect. Maybe I can just show you that. So using this contours detection, we can able to segment. Segment means just extracting the ball position using contour detection in OpenCV. Okay, so like this. So these are like connected, right? I mean, no overlapping, but it's actually connected. I mean, very close to each other. So you can use contour detection, or there are half circle approach. So I will say there are many approaches to detect a ball using OpenCV. Half circle is another method. Okay, so using that, I guess you can able to find the balls. Okay, maybe there may be some noises if the balls are overlapped, but in order to avoid that, I think maybe a top level view, like if the robot is looking top to bottom, that overlapping will not be there, right? So
No,
it
so a camera is facing right in front of it.
so that overlapping will not happen, and you will get a lot of projects, like even if you are using this kind of view, you can segment it like this. So there are many projects to detect balls, and also if you are using ROS, like if you are just using like ROS USB, I mean, just a second, my mom is calling, just a second, guys. Okay, sorry guys. Okay, so imagine if you're doing the robot using I mean, if you're simulating the robot, you will get the images as a ROS topic. Okay, let me try to open some simulation in my side. Let me check Turtlebot is installed. I'm not sure. Or in my AR. Oh, seems like there is nothing is installed. Okay, anyway, yeah, so you will get the images. Maybe let me close my camera, then I can show you one thing. Let me add my camera into the VM. Just a second. Okay, and let me open. So I hope you are familiar with the virtual machines. It's actually like you can install a guest operating system on a host operating system. Currently, I'm using Windows, and inside that I install Ubuntu. Okay, and so you can work on both. So currently, I'm accessing my actual camera from VM. Okay, so it's working fine, and I just want to show you how to start the camera driver. So this is actually like if you are working in a real robot, okay, not in the simulated robot, but in the simulated robot as well, when you start the robot simulation with the camera plugins, okay. So if you plug the camera plugins, then you will get a topics like this, okay, for the image, okay. So in ROS, we are using this ROS message called sensor message image, okay. That is the image, I mean, message type, okay. So currently you can see this topic is publishing an image from the webcam, okay. So you can subscribe to that image and do the processing using OpenCV. So let me see whether any sample application that is available. I think yes, something from my book is there, it seems. CV bridge tutorial. Let me see. Yeah, CV bridge tutorial demo.launch. Let me see that it's working. Yeah. So this is actually a symbol processing. You can able to see I am using the ROS driver, USB cam driver, which is publishing image messages from my webcam. Okay, so I can simply subscribe it and do the edge detection. Okay, and I am also publishing that edge detection image. Okay, so you can see the edge detection image is here, the topic. Okay, so just understand, if you're confused, I will say just understand that you can, if you're working with the simulation, this doesn't matter. Like you can use a camera plugin. Okay, for that also you will get a lot of references. Gazebo ROS camera plugin. If you search like this, you will get the instructions for adding camera. There are many tutorials available. Okay, so no need to worry. Yeah, so this is how we are adding a camera. Okay, the instructions, the primary instructions are given here. Okay, but if you have doubt, there are many tutorials available how to add a camera into a simulation. Okay. Yes.
Yes, sir. Actually, I was able to link the camera through ROS, but the only problem I was facing was the ball positions were overlapping and there are a lot of shadows also.
Okay, okay. Maybe like if you change the camera view, it may help. It can avoid the camera. I mean,
in
it
the
avoid. Yeah.
given world, if they can adjust the camera position to have a better detection.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can use any camera view. Like it's not necessary that we have to use the D435 camera on the robot to detect the balls.
No, you have to use that camera, but you can adjust the position so that the image comes out such that the overlapping is minimum.
Okay.
So basically you can adjust the camera link in the current simulation. So you will get a top-down view, which is much better. I mean, much better in the sense it will make our task easy. But other thing is also fine, but there will be some issues with the overlapping. It may not detect the balls. Maybe it will detect at one piece. So there will be some confusion. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sir, I also want to ask one thing. What's the difference between different versions of ROS, like ROS Noetic, ROS Melodic, ROS Kinetic? What's the difference between them?
Yeah, so it's a good question. The thing is that if we check the fundamental feature, I mean the core part of the ROS, I will say it's almost the same. But actually, if you compare the Melodic and Noetic, it's coming with different versions of Ubuntu, and the advantage of using the latest version is that, I mean, I will say the advantages and disadvantages of using latest version and what are the main differences. So in ROS, there are many new packages coming. Okay, so maybe some packages are compatible with the latest version of ROS and latest version of Ubuntu. So in that case, I think it will be better to stick on to the latest version. But if you prefer the old version or just the version just behind, that is melodic here, the advantage is that a lot of packages will be compatible with melodic. A lot of packages are already ported to melodic, but if you are using ROS Noetic, I will not say all the packages will be available. Most of the packages are still in porting stage. Okay, so using melodic will helps to get all the available packages in ROS, okay, which is actually good. And in this scenario, for your competition, I think Noetic or melodic will be fine, no problem. One limitation is that using Noetic, if you're using Python, I think there is a compatibility issue. Currently, melodic is supporting Python 2.7, which is not actively supporting now, which actually, I think it's not supporting now, only Python 3 is supporting. So there will be some compatibility issue. You may have to stick on to Python 2.7, I guess. Okay, you can just verify that. But in ROS Noetic, we can use ROS with latest Python, that is Python 3. And if you're sticking on to C++, then it doesn't matter. If you're using melodic or Noetic, there is no problem. But if you are using Python, I think there will be some compatibility issues, I guess. Compatibility issues in the sense you can't use maybe Python 3 along with ROS melodic. You can just verify that. I think that is the main issue. But you can make it work, but there are some fixes, but it's not a straight forward thing, I guess. Okay. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Sir, at the end, we are given various gates in our problem statement. So if at all that order of gates will be changed, so what will be the best way to detect those?
Gates, right?
Yes.
Gates or door?
The door, like based on our Aruko markers, we'll be given, it will return a value, and based on that, it will exit from that particular gate.
Okay, you mean this?
No, the doors, the exit doors.
Okay, this one.
Yes.
Okay. So can you just repeat the question?
Like if at all they change the order of those gates.
Okay, I'm not sure how these things work.
Can
but
I show you the map?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Then you will get the idea.
Sure.
Yeah, you will have to stop the screen share.
Yeah. Let me just a second. Okay. I just paused the screen sharing. Is that fine or?
No,
maybe I can. Yeah. I can stop.
Yeah, is the image visible?
Okay, yeah, got it.
The environment is given something like this.
Okay.
The doors are colored.
Okay, so what is the purpose of these colored doors?
Yeah, they have to detect the color of the boxes in here, and they have to enter through that colored door.
Oh, okay. So is there any? I mean, okay, it's based on what is the number for? There are 1, 2,
5.
I mean, okay. So imagine if they're detecting green, they have to go with the second door. Is that correct or?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the number.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
No, first they have to, instead of these numbers, there will be Aruko markers.
Okay.
They have to detect their ID, and above that, they have to detect the color of the box.
Mhm.
Then through that colored door, they have to enter.
Okay, so basically, I mean, I didn't get the complete idea of the challenge, but I can give some inputs, okay, from my understanding.
Yeah.
So in order to do the color detection, I think we can use a segmentation as well, like using the OpenCV ROS OpenCV integration. You can do the color detection or segmentation of various colors. Okay, imagine you have to detect green, then you can just adjust. Maybe I can just show you that color detection.
Yeah, you can share the screen.
Sure. Yeah, I think this one. So there are many methods to detect the color, and so using this, I think you will get the coordinates of the, I mean, if you are detecting green or something, you will get the coordinate of the detected color, pixel coordinates. Okay, then you can make the decision based on that. Okay, so I think this task is mainly involving the detection of Arco marker. From the Arco marker, I'm not sure what is the thing. Maybe we will get an ID or something.
Yeah, from
Yeah.
the Aruko marker, they will get the ID.
Yeah.
No, first they will get the ID from the count of the balls present in the environment.
Okay.
And then they have to find that specific Aruko marker, and above it, they have to detect the color of the box, which is present just above that particular Aruko marker.
Okay. Still not very clear, but I can. But I'm just talking about the detection or how to detect these things. So for the Arco marker, we can do this. We can use these packages, so that using these packages we can do the detection of Arco marker. For the color detection, you can use the OpenCV ROS bridge. Okay. Then how to enter to that door? It's like there are many methods. If you want to, like, you can detect the door color or something using the segmentation or something using OpenCV. And in order to enter that, you can you can use the ROS navigation stack to enter. That is one way of doing. And I think if you want to do efficiently, I will say, like, you are getting the input from the Intel RealSense camera, right? So we will get to know the depth of the doors as well. Okay, not like after detecting the color of the doors or something, you can also compute the distance from the robot to the doors. Mainly actually the distance from the camera to the door, but it's almost same, like the camera is on the robot, right? So you will get an idea, you will get the XYZ coordinate of the doors actually after detection. So using that, you can move the robot. So imagine if um, the depth is too near, that means it is actually approaching to a collision or something. So I will say, using the depth camera inputs, you can compute the depth, and using that input, you can, like, there are many methods. Either you can publish something on the navigation map, so that will be helpful. Otherwise, like, I will say, you can just detect the door, and you can give a navigation goal so that it can just cross the door automatically. So I'm not, I mean, thinking about the approaches, but I can say what are the methods that we can use to detect the doors, and how to enter into that door without collision. So for doing that, I think this kind of navigation, So if you want to command the robot, maybe I can just show you that. Those navigation stack, then command. So if you want to send goals to navigation stack, okay, ROS navigation stack, you can use this tutorial. Like, it's very simple. Like, you can send the goal position, okay, X, Y, theta, using this format. It's basically an ROS action client. Okay, so if you just command, then the robot will move to that position. Okay, so these are the inputs that you can use in order to work. But I'm not sure about the I mean, the logic. I mean, the competition, how to solve that, I need to think. But these are the inputs that you can use in order to solve the competition. Yeah. Is that clear? Or if you have doubts, you can ask.
Yeah,
Okay.
hello. Ishita,
Yeah.
do you have any doubt?
No, sir. Thanks a lot.
Mhm. Okay. So, yeah. So, is that okay, or do you have any more questions?
Yeah, Aman is raising hand. Aman?
Hello, Bhaiya.
Yeah. Hi.
Bhaiya, our team is I can discuss the approach here, right?
I mean, your approach, maybe you don't need to discuss that because other teams can also use that. So if you are more specific, that will be good.
Okay.
Maybe it's your choice. It's your choice.
Okay, Bhaiya. We try we are using G mapping, and
Okay.
that we have to subscribe the data from the LiDAR 2D to the RVs, the topic map for making the G map. So when we try to do this, they the error gets no map found. Why that? So
Mhm. So, so in order to run the G mapping, initially I can say the G mapping is for creating a map of the environment. So the G mapping is actually having a SLAM algorithm, simultaneous localization and mapping. There is a SLAM algorithm called FastSLAM. So it is using that. And in order to make it work, there are some inputs that you have to give. That is the scan data, laser scan data. So make sure the scan topic is correct on the G mapping parameters. Then we have to, maybe I can take the G mapping ROS wiki page. Oh. Let me take. Yeah, so you have to provide these things, like the scan is important and the TF. Okay, so the TF should be published, and you have to mention the I mean the laser frame, base frame, all this stuff. I think you can take you can refer some existing projects like Turtlebot or Linobot or any other projects to get it done. That will be good. And if you just provide all these things, you will get the map publishing. Okay, so in order to check that, I will say, like, I hope you are familiar with the ROS topic command and all.
yes.
So you can just simply check, instead of RVs, you can simply check using the ROS topic.
Topic list.
Yeah, or heads, just to make sure that is publishing. Maybe I can do a demo. Like I'm just trying to publish a value. Let me check that is working. Okay, So now I have a topic now called chatter. I can echo it. Okay. And in order to just make sure the topic is publishing, you can use a heads. Okay. So that will give the frequency of publication. Okay, so it's actually, so these are simple tools to like check whether the map is publishing or not, or you can use the BW bandwidth. Okay, if also if you want to check the node is publishing that topic or not, you can use the rows node list. Then this is our node. That is the rows topic. It's actually acting as a node. So you can just check rows node info, that name. So you can see that node is publishing chatter. Okay, so these are the simple methods to like debug. Okay, so make sure you are giving the topics properly, mainly the TF and scan. If that is the case, then if it is not working, it will be better to refer some existing projects. Okay.
You also might to need to configure the parameters.
Yeah, but even
just the base frame and
yeah. So you can just follow this and just configure. So mostly it will be because of the subscribe topics and the parameters. Okay, so this page is actually helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
For debugging, you can also check out the RQT graph.
Yeah.
RQT.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, so can we conclude?
So before concluding, I want to ask, like, can you show your courses so that if people are interested, they can join it?
Sure. So like guys, I'm actually like maybe I can just explain just a second. So I mentioned that my primary business is consulting. Like I'm just working with some companies abroad, mainly the ROS based robotic software development. So in parallel with that, I'm passionate in teaching. So I'm writing books and doing courses, online courses. So in last year, I have started my new course. It's called ROS Developer Learning Path. Okay, so this was my first course, started in 2020. And it is actually a 1-year course, and it's a live course. And the live sessions are recorded, so you can also watch in your own pace. And after completing the first course successfully, I'm starting my second course, that is ROS Developer Learning Path 2.0. So mainly the course is actually teaching ROS 1 and ROS 2 from the scratch. Okay, so that is what this course doing. And it's like I'm also like mentoring students for the competition. Like there are eYantra competition, then Art Park from IIC. So I have an experience in that. So I'm planning to provide these things as a course. Okay, so it's a live course. It will be starting on November, and it's a 1-year course, as I mentioned. And I have some collaboration with some companies like NVIDIA and Innobit. These are US companies, and there are startups in India as well. So there are a chance of getting an internship in the Indian companies. NVIDIA is primarily our technical collaborator. And yeah, so this is a syllabus you can watch. I'm sharing this link to Jeff so he can share with you. Yeah, and the live session will be on weekend, and if you are not free, you can watch the recorded session, and you will get an access to interact with me through Discord and all. Okay, yes, and you will get course content lifetime access. Okay, so these are the things, and you will get access to all of my books as well. So the course fees, like for the 1 year, it's actually for Indian students is 50,050. With GST, it will be 60. For international students, it's like $1,500. Okay, so this is the thing. And you can pay this fee in maybe monthly or quarterly as per your convenience. And there is a chance for scholarship, but we are looking for sponsors. Then we are planning to give a scholarship of like 3 or 4 people. So that is based on the project that they have done. Yeah, so we didn't get the sponsorship yet. Okay, so it is not open now for the scholarship. Yes, so yeah, so this is a thing, guys. So, and I also mentioned some of the project that I done by the first batch students. There are a lot of interesting projects from the first batch. So if you are anyone interested, let me know. Okay, it is like it will not be like starting from I mean, I'm not assuming that you know ROS, but it will be starting from the very basics. Okay, you can check the syllabus. Okay, so we are starting from the very basic robotics, then electronics. So these all things are required to work with a robot. So we are starting with the very basic and going with the advanced things like ROS1 navigation, manipulation. So all these stuffs are covering. Okay, so let me know if you are anyone interested. Okay, and I can show my LinkedIn profile as well. So if you are interested, just connected. So this is my LinkedIn profile. So you can just connect it, and you can just ping me if you are interested. Okay, that's it, guys. So if you have any confusion, you can ask regarding the course or books. Let me know. Okay, so if that is clear to you, can we conclude?
Yes.
Okay, then thanks for
thank you,
listening to me. Yeah, go on.
Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Sure. Okay, so you can work on the competition and hope you can learn more stuff. Sorry for that. Hope you can learn more stuff from the competition. I mean, robotics and also like ROS programming. Okay, all the best, guys. All the best. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye,
Okay,
sir.
bye. Bye. Yes, bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.